Hi guys. Good evening. 20 of you are here. Hi, good evening, Gopam. Yeah. Good evening, Meena. I get a separate energy when it is on Friday alone. I don't know why. Hey, good evening, Sudhakar. Yeah. Make sure everyone joins the class tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be seeing some of the extra topics and all which we haven't covered in the curriculum. Okay, more on, and also few parts, new things which are good to know. Okay, so obviously all these Saturdays I see very few attendance. Okay, yes, it's hard, but if possible, try to join. Okay. Okay, I'm adding the MCQ posted for Baba batch, and did the same for Tata batch as well. MCQ is live, guys. Find a tricky one. Only if you understand the meaning of this keyword in JavaScript, you will be able to get this. Oh, tomorrow you have retest. Okay. So I think few of them have retest. Okay, no problem. If you are not able to join due to your retest, at least, make sure that you watch the recordings. Read the question properly. I think it's formatted in a better way, right? In the question, I think it's, for me, it is showing line after line only. How about yours? Is it in one single line, or is it formatted properly? MCQ? Yes, no, any response?
Properly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Those of you who joined late, MCQ is already live. Please answer your MCQs. Let me share my screen. Okay. Any doubts on yesterday's class? Did you go through? Explain the second MCQ. Yes, I will do probably after the class. Okay. Yeah. MCQs I will explain after the today's class. Okay. Done, everyone. I think the time is also over. Okay. Now let's go to whatever we saw yesterday. Any doubts on handling request parents, query parameters, how routing is happening, how to serve static files from a folder, without mentioning separate route for each of the files, mentioning one thing, how to serve static files. This is a middleware. We will see what middleware is. This is also a middleware. Okay. Any doubts how to get the request body? One correction, not correction, but yesterday I told you there is another library called body parser, right? There is another library called body parser. Okay. Earlier when Express was developed, okay, Express has multiple things bundled together. Okay, multiple small features bundled together, and after that they felt like we there is too much of thing in a single package called Express, and they thought to separate few of the things. Okay, excuse me. To separate few of the things, and then they introduced, many things were separated from the Express parser later. Okay, and then the body parser package came out, okay, as a separation. It is still maintained by the Express team only, but they have just maintained, they have just separated this body parser in a separate package. Okay, and this body parser would have this .json file. Okay, according to me, from till yesterday, I thought we will have to use body parser new, and this is something old and deprecated. But I will show you one thing here. Okay, let me show you one GitHub thing. Yeah. So after after people started using, they thought this body, this .json is something used in all the Express servers, and many people started raising the request to bring this body parser inside the Express itself. Okay, instead of having it as a separate package and then installing that as well and then maintaining both. No, many people started requesting to bring the back one, meaning put all these in the Express server itself. So starting from 4.16, that is the newer version which we have. Okay, they started to add, to bring in a few things back to the Express itself. So express.json, this is being the new version now. So we no longer need to use body parser if we are using Express version greater than 4.16. Okay, if you have some projects, some older projects have a dependency, they might not have migrated to newer versions. If they have a no low version which is less than 16, then you might see body parser packages there. Okay, so now if you are installing in your own projects, I think like these all will be introduced in the Express itself. It is being maintained, so you don't need to use this additional package just to bring in these features and all. Okay, earlier, like what it was like this, it was like body parser, you will have to include this. Okay, you will have to require import that package called body parser, install it like how you do npm install, right? So and then you will have to use this. There is a method called .json there. So this statement will be used. But even I was not aware of the update. No, when I was checking about body parser, I got to know it's being updated in the new version itself. So yeah, that's one thing. Okay, you will find this body parser package in most of the Express backends, but looks like it's brought back to the Express package itself. So no need of doing this. Okay, so that is an additional thing I wanted to discuss, because I don't know how. Did you learn body parser, Baba batch?
Yes,
Anyone?
ma'am.
Yes, okay. Probably, yeah, that is, you will find it in many of the Express servers. They will use an additional package and then use like this, similar kind of thing. Okay, same syntax, nothing complex, just that instead of using it from Express, you will use it from body parser package. Okay, but now that is not required. You can still use Express itself. So it's brought back to the Express package itself. Need not install a separate package for that. Okay, so why this body parser.json is required? That is important because you need to parse JSON data and communicate the data between your request, between your server and the response which you send. Okay, so by default, if you don't tell your Express server that you are dealing with JSON kind of data, it will be undefined. This will be undefined. It will not know that it has to parse JSON objects. Only if you mention this middleware, it will do that for you. Okay, that is done. Any doubts so far with the yesterday's class? No, yes. Others? There are 31 here. 31 people are here. Any doubts with how to handle all these static files? How to have virtual path in the static files? Okay. One thing which I missed yesterday was, okay, you have a post call here, dot post, and same URL, right? And dot get method and then same route. Okay, same URL. Probably for put and edit also, I'm assuming that you have, when you have same uh, operations to be performed for whatever method it is. Even for get, I wanted to do the same. Even for post, I wanted to do the same. And if everything is same, you need not mention like dot get. Again, everything is same is something a rare scenario. Generally, you don't want it to do it. If it is a get, you are going to give a data. If it is a put, you are going to edit the data. If it's a post, you're going to add a new data. Delete, you're going to delete it. Okay, most probably like 95% you will not face this situation of handling same route but all the methods in a similar way. Okay, if it arises, if there is a situation like that, if there is any particular use case that your application is handling it in that way, you can instead of mentioning dot get, let's say uh, home. Okay, and instead of handling every request like this, and then app dot put, okay, slash home, and then handling, no, understood, right? Like this one you will have to copy paste. Let's say you want to handle delete this. If if the handling here is same, obviously you don't want to do the same thing and put all this, right? So this is something very tedious process. So instead you have a method called app dot all, and then you do this thing. Same, everything is same. So whatever you do wanted to do, you can put there. So this all means every http method, be it anything, get, put, delete, patch, whatever it is. Okay, everything will be handled here. You need not do this part. Okay, this can be avoided and you can just add dot all here, so that every HTTP method is redirected to this callback only. Understood?
Then, ma'am, the operation we are doing, it will be same for the all the
Yes,
methods.
yes. Say every for that is the scenario which I explained, right? That would be something, as I said, 95% none of the applications will do it in that way. Okay. So if it is a get and they don't want to handle post, delete, put and all, they should not handle itself in the first place. Okay, so if you have any certain rare use cases, if you wanted to design your application in that way, this is just good to know one. Okay, obviously get, post, put and all each have their own meaning, okay, to it. Like if it is a get request, you will have to serve data, you should not modify it in that place. Okay, if it is a put request, you should try to modify only, you should not add it. Okay, there's a difference between put and post. Post, you should not modify any existing data, rather only add a new resource to it. So there is certain meanings for each HTTP method. Like if this method is being done, I need to perform only that set of actions, nothing other than that. Okay, if you don't follow this kind of design, that is something, a bad design, you can say a bad REST API design. We will see all about how to design your APIs and all when we go to that topic. But in case, let's say you want to serve an image, be it any method, you want to serve an image or any other file, you can simply put all here. Got is it out here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let us put this part at the end. Understood? Any doubts on this part? Everyone? Any doubts, guys? No? Can I assume it's no? Okay. Then, okay, let's go to today's topic. Okay, this is something, a continuation of yesterday's only. I showed you as a JS file, right? I had a mock JS file and then showed you. Let us add a JSON file and then let me show you how to deal with a file and then write it. Okay, so this is an array. If you see here, this was a mock array that I tried to import and then we made changes on that array. Let us say it is a JSON file. Okay, it is a JSON file. Even in the array, when I tried to add some data, it was not reflected in the file, right? Was it written in the file? Was it, when I added post file and all, it was not reflected in the file. Am I right or wrong? For that you will need to do some file operations. It was just in memory. Once I stop and start the server, whatever I added will be lost. Correct? It was just in this in memory data, which whenever I added, I was simply appending it to my in memory data only. It was not added to the file. And whenever I stop and start the server, all my new data which I added was lost. Okay, you can also handle it using JSON. JSON is a better way. Let's create post.json. Okay, let's have a JSON format with key. Let us assume it's post. Okay, which is an array and it contains multiple JSON objects. Okay, so in each of this JSON object, let us copy first two alone. I don't want to load it. This is a JSON object, and let us consider second one as well. This is another JSON object. Okay, simple JSON file with key post, and that post is an array with array of JSON objects. Okay, this is the data I have in JSON. Let me do all the same thing, but with JSON data. So instead of this one, let me comment this. Const post JSON post data, which is equal to require. One best thing about JSON is you need not use reading and all. It is a separate file, right? It is not a JS file. If it is a file with another extension, probably you will have to read it, right? If it is a text file or if it is any other file, to get the data from that file, you will have to use any file stream package and then read the content of it. When you come to JSON, you need not do that. Just mention the file name. All this entire content will be available in this data. Got it? So now this is the entire object, entire JSON object. Understood this till here? Any doubts, others? Thanks, Shubham. Yeah. I didn't import, I didn't export and all. This is just a JSON file which is containing empty object and then a key with post, and that key is an array. Okay, simply you can import it. All this data available in this file will be there in JSON post data now. So far clear how to add content to your JSON file and how to import them? Can we do all these operations with the JSON now? Now let us first concentrate on the get part. Okay, let's first. Okay, let us first stop this server. I have started it. Okay, get post should ideally return. I have commented this part. Okay, it is it is not from this file anymore. Okay, now in my get call, in my get post call, okay, I am getting the data from this file, right? So instead of doing it from JSON file, let us go and try it with. So it is an object, right or wrong? It is an object. It is an object. How will you access object keys? What are the two ways to access object keys?
Dot notation, back notation.
Yes. So this is an object. I can simply put post. Okay, can we see if this part is working? Let me go back. Where is my postman? Okay, let me go back to my postman. I'm not offline. Okay, so this is a get call. Okay, let us see if it is being served. Can you see the data from our JSON is being served? Only two things. Since the post is an array, you are able to handle everything from my JSON file. I'm importing it from JSON only. It is an array. JSON file, array, only two I have. Those two is being available in my get call. Yes, bracket note, correct, Rupam. Bracket notation also you can do. It is an object now. It is just a plain JavaScript object. Okay, now this is done. Can we do the same for get of ID? Possibly the same thing, right? Instead of doing it with post mock data, I'm doing with JSON post data. Okay, anything difference in this part? Nothing. So now if I go back and ask for, let's say I ask for 3. No data found. Okay, let's say I ask for 2, post 2, then I should get second one alone. If I ask for 1, same thing, just for having an array, I'm showing the demo with a JSON file, because this is how most likely you will be handling in bigger applications as well, in your own project as well. Okay, from database and from using JSON only, you will be handling it. Now post. Okay, now let's say I don't want to add temporarily here. Okay, I just wanted to write that content in the JSON file. What can we do? Now we will have to definitely use file systems. Okay, no other go to write the content in the file. What we can do is simply first add it. Okay, add it in the JSON memory, in our memory, in memory JSON. After adding it, you will have to write that content in my file. Right or wrong? I have to write this entire content in my file. Yes. Yes, you can try to parse this, get the end of it, and then try to append it. But that is something tedious process when you come to, file systems. Rather simply overwrite it with the new data. That would be better, right? Instead of reading the entire content, finding this part and then appending it. Okay, if it is a big thing, big files, you can do. Okay, instead of doing that, I can rather export what I wanted to do, right? What is the method to write? Right, require fs. Okay, it's write file, right? So I'm destructuring only the write file method. Go back to my post data. Okay, here I can just write that, call that method with the file name. What is the file name? mock/post.json. Okay, what is the second parameter you will have to give? The data itself, right? Whatever you wanted to write in your file, the data, if you see here, the data itself. So now the new data is this one. I have added it to my JSON post data object. So this is my new data. Okay, so I can write it now. So next time, even if I stop and start the server, I will have the data returned here, right? Can we check this part, post part? No changes. I'm just writing the entire content in my file. Now, if I go back and do a post call, why, what's the error? It's JavaScript, and that's the reason. Okay, so can we try to post this data and check our JSON file after it is being posted? Okay, now if I try to send, okay, there is an error, received undefined, callback must be a function, right file. What is the error we are facing here? Okay, so now, yes, the error is, what is the type of this data? What is the type of this object? JSON, JavaScript object,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Java.
Whenever you are trying to write content in your file, make sure that if you just go and check the definition, you can say the data should be either a string or a buffer, right? Buffer or string, right? It is of JSON, it is of object type, so you cannot do that. How can you convert a JSON object into a string?
JSON.stringify.
Yes, so JSON dot stringify is the answer. Now let us hopefully what wrong, what are, okay, got it. Let me check if this is the error. It is not mandatory, it shouldn't be the case. Okay, it is an async process, right? It is an async process, so we will have to give the callback. If you see here, callback is not optional. Okay, so no param, obviously. I think you have an error also. Possibly after writing the file, you can just send this success information, else send response dot file error adding data. If it is an error, just send the response as error, adding data, and then return from this file so that this part is not executed. If it is not an error, obviously this part will be executed. So now if you go back and check this JSON, okay, so okay. Can you see the data which we added twice? Obviously, I did posted twice, and that's the reason it is added twice. But can you see the data which we gave, which the user gave, being stored in the return in the file itself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is how you persist your data, persist users data. Okay, when you connect database, this will not be a problem. Okay, for now, if you don't know, we haven't covered database and all, so we need something to be persisted, some user data to be persisted, so you can work with JSON files as of now. Understood how to deal with JSON files, how to write it. If you use this sync, then that should not be a problem, but use async processes as much as possible. Don't go with sync method. Any doubts, guys? Can we go to status codes? Everyone? Okay. So now, if you see here, let us, did we handle any errors anywhere? Okay, probably this no data thing. Okay, I ask for a post ID. If that post is not present, I'm going to send no data found. Correct? So if I go back and ask for get some random number which is not even present, if I go and send here, can you see no data found? That is the data I sent. I'm okay with that. Can you see the status here 200? Okay, 200 means 200 generally means that the user's request, whatever the user asked for, is successful. Okay, if I asked for post 1 and then if it is giving me 1, then it's successful 200. Okay, no problem with that. When it is an unexpected behavior, you gave the message, but your client side applications, right, whatever the front end part, whichever you are writing, okay, most of the front end part, you cannot keep on checking this content, okay, every time. If you can parse, let's say this content is big, do you think every time the client has to go and parse this content and then find out? See, you can send it is no data found. Okay, do you think the same sentence has to be matched in the client side and then check if it is the same sentence and then find out that there is no data and then display it to the viewer? It is a tedious process and it is not a better practice as well. Okay, you need to mention the status of the request in this itself. Okay, if it is a no data found or no file found, normally whenever a site is not found, what you get, what is the status code? Can any one of you remember the status code whenever, if you see any server, whenever it is down?
404.
404, right? 404, yeah, 400, yeah, for each code has their own meaning. 404 generally means no content found, like that. Okay, so it is a better practice to tell your client by the status code itself. Okay, you cannot be simply sending 200 for everything. Okay, let us say in the post call, you are always expecting user ID. Okay, if the user ID is not present, you wanted to send, tell like invalid input. Okay, I have not mandated it here, but let us assume this query param is mandatory in the post call. Let us assume this query param is mandatory. Okay, there is a possibility, if you have mandated this query parameter, there is a possibility that the user is not giving the query parameter, right? So in that case, you wanted to tell the client that it is an invalid input, and please give user ID to fetch the post. Okay, so this is the status. This is an error message, right or wrong? This is an error message. This, let me go back to my console. Now let me use query param. Okay, probably I gave only title. Okay, only the title I gave, and I am using a get call. Now, if you see here, it is performing that check, invalid input, please give user ID. But do you see status 200 here? 200 means it is a success call. Okay, so invalid input has its own, I think it's 500. Let me quickly check. 500 is server error. Invalid input status code. Okay, 400 is the invalid input. If the user input is invalid, you will have to give 400 as the status code. This is a standard practice. You will have to mention the correct status code to the client. If the status, if it is failed, or if it is, there might be some server errors, all that. Okay, so in order to handle status code, you have 5 distinctions here. The first one is for information purpose. That will range from 100 to, it is a 3-digit number. Okay, 199. Okay, 100 to 199. Okay, so this is very, I don't think, like, only if you have certain purposes you can use, not commonly used kind of thing. Let us say it is a success. Success also ranges from 200 to 299. Okay, so 200 to 299, each number have a specific meaning to it. I will show you the website. Okay, this is for success. Okay, whatever it is, if it is a get success, post success, put success, delete success, all this, the number will range from 200 to 299. Excuse me. Okay, and then you have some redirects. Let us say redirect. You have to you are migrating from your old code to your new, let's say you have a home page which is kind of, you have maintained, and you have, changed the main UI, and you have, new UI. The home page is fresh, but still certain people will have the URL of the old UI as well, right? Okay, so you don't want to break the existing behavior, so you have 2 URLs. Okay, the old URL and the new URL. Okay, let us say after you are currently, let us say you are supporting both these URLs and you are serving the customers. Okay, but after few point, you don't want to maintain this, right? You want to entirely remove this. So whenever you bring in a new change, this is how people, big organizations do. Initially they will serve both of these. Okay, and then tell the user in the old UI that there is being some change, go and check the new one. Okay, they'll be giving that information in the old UI itself. So after some period, okay, like 1 year or 6 months, after certain period, they'll completely stop removing it. After completely stopped to remove it, what happens is still people will be there is a possibility that still people will be visiting your old URL itself. That time, internally in your code, what you can do is simply redirect them to your new UI. Okay, some of you might have seen in few websites, if you have noticed. Okay, so you can indirectly migrate redirect the user from old URL to your new URL. So if you are performing any redirection to any other size, the status code should be 300 to 399. Okay, all those URL redirections, any redirection. This is a simple example, not only UI redirection. It might be multiple things, right? Simply redirect one from another. Next is the client error. client error will start from 400 to 499. What is client error meaning? Any request which comes from the client itself has a error. For example, we saw the postman. This data, no invalid input user ID is something, an error from the client side, and server has nothing to do with it. Okay, client has made some mistakes while sending the request, and it is not the expected behavior in the server. Okay, it is a mistake from the client side. So you will have to denote all that client related errors with error code 400 to 499. Got it? Next is the server error. Let's say your client request and all is correct. Okay, let's say your client request is not correct, but internally when you are doing this kind of operations, right? Let us say you haven't converted into number, or let's say any exception in between your server error. Okay, while processing the request, some errors might occur here. Okay, you will have to catch that, and if it is a server error, you will have to tell that it is a server error and something bad happened on the server side and the client has nothing to do with it. So all those error will be 500 to 599. Okay, so this range you will have to know, but practically impossible to know all the meaning of each status codes. The general ones you will have to know. Okay, HTTP status code. You have this one, yes. If you see here the summary of what we saw earlier. So let's go to success. Okay, if you see here, 200 is the success. Generally, people will send. Okay, if it is a get, head, put or post. Okay, if they send 200 as the successful thing. Okay, so 201. Okay, whenever you add a resource, right? Rather than sending 200 as a status code, whenever you add a new resource which is being created, for that you will have to mention 201. Okay, so as I said earlier, it is not practically possible to know all of this. This 204 no content, this created, and this 200 is common. Generally what people will do is, if it is a client error, simply throw 400. Okay, if it is a server error, simply throw 500. Okay, if you want your application to be more specific, you can go and search for what error you are getting and then send it. Okay, but mostly you will see, if it is a server error, they will simply send 500. Okay, you cannot expect all the applications to be as detailed as to be have the exact code. But generally if it is a client error, simply people will prefer to throw 500 and throw 400 for client and 500 for server error. Got it? If you see here, so let's go to server errors. Okay, there is multiple server error, right? So there might be a general error like this internal server error. Might be it is not implemented itself. Backend code, there is no code for the backend. Bad gateway, service not available. If your backend itself is down, okay, in that case you can tell that it's 5, not 3. Okay, try to be as specific, but at least this has to be this has to be clear. If it is success, it has to lie between this range only. This you will have to know. If you change this part, right? If you go and throw 500 for client error, then that is not a good design, and you should not do that. Okay, can we add status codes to few of our status here? Yes. Understood what's the high level classification of status codes? Any doubts on this? Okay, now we will see few errors in our application and try to add as much as possible. You guys are going to browse and tell me the exact code. Okay, yeah. So first error, possibly invalid input. What is the status code? What is the status code for invalid input from the user?
400.
Yeah, 400 would be the better one. If there is any specific thing, let me know, but 400 is it. Now you have to add to the resource object. Yes, simply you can add like this also, dot status, like this, and then mention. Okay, and then do this, or you can also chain like in the way which I have done it. Both will work. Okay, now if I go back and try to hit the postman, okay, can you see 400 bad request? This tells the client code, whatever you have written, that it is a bad request, something has to be done here, the user has made the request in sending it. Okay, this is not a valid error, I have made it to be an error and then I have sent it. Should not mandate query params and all. Okay, okay, no data found. Can anyone of you find the status code for no data found in the database, like that?
It will be 404.
Okay, 404, you can say it for no content found. Yeah, that also will work. Status. But what will happen is 404. I'll show you what's the issue here. I'm sending the status and the no data, right? So I think it is a default behavior of Postman. What will happen is it will not show the content, I believe. Let me check. This is not present in the database, this ID. If I try to hit, okay, it's showing 404 not found and the data is also there. I thought this data will not be there. Okay, no problem. This is how you set the status code in your response. Okay, along with the data, this is how you send. By default, it is 200. So you need not add for the other things and all. Okay. So now let us say, okay, error adding data. What kind of an error this is and what status code should I add? Error adding data, what kind of an error this is? Is this a client request error, server error, or is it redirection, or is it a success code? What kind of an error this is?
I mean, it's a client side error.
How can I tell that it is, how are you telling me that it is a client side error?
Because ma'am, like the client is passing some data which is like not in the format.
Okay, so this is the writing part, right? Writing to my file. Okay, so if that is the case, if there is an error, if there is an error in the post data here itself, you should have handled it validation of user data. You should have added a method here to validate it. Okay, validate your post data and then send that it is a client error, so I am not getting the data which I am expecting it. Okay, only when that is done, you probably have some a method called validate user data and then return the error from there. Okay, your point is correct, but that is something we should have done before writing to a file. Without validating, you should not try to add it in your database. Okay, if the format is not as expected, there might be a chance the user is giving multiple data here, right? If there might be a chance, okay, let me go back to my postman. There might be the chance that the user is giving multiple unrelated data and all here. But even if the user gives this kind of a data, it is going to write in my file. There is no exception being thrown. Okay. So user data should be validated first before you do operations like adding it to a file or adding it to your database. Okay. Database will not handle the errors in your data. This data error, unexpected errors and all, it will not handle. Okay. Generally, before adding it to the database, you should validate all that. General errors in file will be possibly the file is being deleted by some other process, or the file content which I am adding is not in the format which you specified. Correct. The format might be different. Like let's say it's not stringy file. Okay, that might be a case. But this is something not the client has to do in this part. Okay, there is an error from the server side, right? This and all I am only no doing. I am only parsing the server is only the changing all the data formats and all. So this is something, a mistake from the server side. So it is a server side error. Understood the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what is the status code that you can add here?
Error 500.
Yeah, 500, or if there is any, I think 500 should be okay. Success automatic 200 will be added. Okay. So we haven't performed any redirection. So if there is any redirection, you can do. So you have in mind that you have to add a correct status code. Okay. Similar to how, you will have to know what process you are doing in the first place. Is it the client error or the server error? Accordingly, you will have to pass the status code. Okay, Prague has asked me what is error 418. I'm a teapot. We will have to look into it. I cannot memorize all that. Let me check. The server refuses to brew coffee because it is permanently a teapot. Okay, from my temporarily out of coffee, should instead return. Okay. This error is a reference to, oh, good one. I will have to check more on that. Okay, it's been released in April Fool's joke, it seems. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, check that. It's a good one. Thanks, Prag. 418. Everyone, no, just check what's the 418 thing. They have just, defined in April Fool's joke, it seems. I think after reading, I have read somewhere else long back. I don't remember, but a good one. Okay. Done with status codes, nothing complex. You can always browse, but how to differentiate what is a client error and what is a server error is something you should be careful about. Okay. And the range. Okay. Need not know every specific details and all. That's okay. The others you can know. Can we move to middlewares? Important topic for today. Any doubts, guys? Srinivas, Bhavan, Varun, Sudhakar, Subir, any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Understood. Simple topic so far, nothing complex. Okay. So let us go to middlewares. I got an excellent picture from the blog, Log Rocket blog. I will just bring in that. Copy. Okay. Why am I not able to expand this? Okay. It's clear, right? Should I zoom in? Okay. Now better?
Yes, bar.
Okay. Now let us take, before seeing this picture, we are going to see something called middlewares in Express. There are middlewares in almost most of the things, Okay, in Express, we are going to see what middleware is and how it is going to work. Okay, so by the name itself, okay, you can guess something, right? It's middleware. What does it, do you know what middleman is? Like someone in between any process. Can you tell me any of the middlemans in the process? Any of your day-to-day lives?
Day-to-day life, ma'am, one girlfriend and one friend and his
Agent.
boyfriend.
Hmm? Friend and
Ma'am, friend and then his friend and girlfriend.
correct, but okay, more appropriate example would be brokers, retailers. Yes, that also would be a better example. See, the factory. Okay, anything you buy.
Like ma'am, Zomato.
Yes, Zomato is a very good example. Okay, Zomato is a middleman, Swiggy is a middleman. Why do we say middleman? Because hotels are preparing it and you are receiving it, someone is getting it for you. Right, so Swiggy is the middleman here. Okay, similarly, if you have any manufacturing factories, okay, so which is, let's say it's Dairy Milk. Okay, do you go and get directly from the factory?
No ma'am.
No, right? So there are few distributors, huge distributors. You don't get it from distributors also, and they distribute to few retail shops, retailers, and you are here and you go and get it from a street shops, right? So there are multiple people involved here, multiple distributors involved here. Can we say these two are middlemen? Right? More appropriate example would be this one. Okay, the example which they have considered is, let's say someone is giving you a bag of lemons. Okay, lemons, and what you will have to do is simply check the quality of lemons, where it's where it is being what's the origin of the lemon, how it is, is it in a good state or is it in a bad state, or is it fresh, right? So all these conditions you are checking, the server is checking. Okay, okay, and then you are making it as a lemon juice. Okay, possibly, let us take, okay, what happens is, don't confuse with the statements and all. Okay, this is the scenario. Okay, so instead of you doing all the jobs, right, checking the origin, checking the quality of the lemon, checking the freshness of lemons, let us say you hire 3 people. Okay, you hire 3 people. So the first one would check the origin of the lemons, if it is not without any, without any chemicals and it's being grown organically. Okay, let us assume that the first person checks that. And if you give in 500 lemon, okay, let's say 5 are rejected in this stage itself. Okay, and it goes to the next person. Okay, this one is filtering all the lemons which are in good state alone. Okay, let's assume 20 goes in this. Okay, balance how much you have? 75. 75 goes to the third middleman who's checking the freshness. Let's say 5 goes in this, the balance 70 comes here. Understood? Like instead of you doing all the job, okay, one person doing all the job, you are delegating that work to 3 different people and you are filtering out in each step, and you are doing the job of just making it as a juice. Understood? There are 3 middle people involved here doing the job for you, and you just need to do your job. The others will be handled by these middlemen. Okay, can you think of the benefits here? One quick benefit would be, a lot of overhead is removed, right? Lot of overhead, lot of processing in one place is removed. Can you think of any other benefit?
Yeah, like ma'am, a particular task is given to particular person, so it
Correct.
will
That
be.
is, yes, the responsibility is being uh, delegated to individual thing. But do you see the other filtering process also? From 100, All the bad part, all the invalid ones, all the not required ones are being filtered, and then you are given the only with 70, which means, are you not filtering? No, are you not instead of bringing all the 100 to the last stage, are you not filtering the invalid ones earlier itself, so it is not being processed every time? Are we not doing that as well? One benefit is something which you told, very good, correct. And this is also another benefit. Instead of processing them till the end, okay, I am just eliminating as and when I find that it is an invalid one, right? So this is exactly is called the middleware part, this three part. Understood? So assume that this thing is our request, okay, the entire thing with all invalid data, be it anything, okay, and you need to serve it, and then you need to send the response, okay, from the request, okay, from request till your response, anything in between, all the small minor tasks in between are termed to be middlewares. Understood the uh, meaning of what middlewares is, why it is used? Okay, here when we come to filtering, let us say a bad request comes in. Let us say an unauthenticated, okay, one unauthenticated, I mean the user who is trying to access your website is not the correct one. He don't have access to your website. Okay, instead of serving them with the data, processing all of them in the one place, okay, can we not check that first? Authentication is something you will have to do first, right? So can I not check, sorry, can I not just check if it is authenticated in the first middleware itself? Okay, authenticated, and then immediately send the error response instead of parsing unauthenticated request to all of this middlewares. Okay, instead of going to the final part and then throwing the request, can I not do it in the first step itself and send? Right or wrong?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, understood the use case of it, why middlewares, what it is doing, what are the advantages of using? I could have made it as a theory, so as a point wise, but this, I think it's more clear than these statements. Any doubts with what the middlewares are? Can we go to implementation part? Okay, before that, let's have one MCQ. Any doubts? Yes, no. Okay, yes, I will repeat, Srinivas. Sure. MCQ added for Baba batch. Same done for Tata as well. MCQ is live. Okay, let us leave the example and all. Okay, let us consider that you are getting a request. Okay, you are getting a HTTP request. Okay, and you have to send your response. Till here clear?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is request? I am sending the request from my postman, and I am sending the response here. Okay, this part, whereas this part is the response. Okay, anything between your request and response, right? There might be multiple processes involved from the request to the response. Okay, let us take an example of adding a new user. Okay, user data, a new user is coming into your website and he is logging into your signing it up for your application. Okay, user data. Initially he is coming with and then providing you some JSON data containing all his or her information. Okay, that is the request being passed here. Okay, instead of having one handler, right, instead of having this one particular thing to handle all of the stuffs, what are the different things you have to handle? You have to validate the user's response, right? Validation each data. You should check if it is, let us say if it is some bank related application, you should validate, not validate, you should ensure that whatever data, even the let's say he is giving you his PAN number, right? You should ensure that his PAN number is correct. Validation might be correct, any set of numbers which he gives is correct only, right? So but you should ensure that PAN belongs to him. You should, verification has to be done, right? Verification of the PAN should be done. The other thing would be multiple cases, right? So there are multiple processes involved just to add in your DB, just to add this user data in your DB. There might be multiple processes involved before actually adding the data. Okay, instead of having one handler function to do all of this different stuffs for you, okay, you can delegate certain tasks to certain functions. Okay, separate functions, so that once, okay, first function, it first your request will go to validation middleware. Okay, when that is itself, when the validation itself is wrong, it will simply give the response, error response. If this middleware is being successful, it will go to this PAN verification. Okay, one example is I told PAN verification. This is another middleware. Okay, let us say this as verification. If this is no error, if there is an error here, immediately I can send the response, right? And the last one is to add the data. Here is where you are adding the data. Okay, this is the task, final important task is to add the data in your DB, right? If this is fail, again you can add it, you can send the response from here, correct, error response. So instead of having one big bulk function to do all of this different things, you are delegating, meaning you are assigning certain sections of your task to separate functions, which we call them as middleware. So what they do is simply do their job. If there is an error, simply return it there itself, instead of parsing it to the next middleman. Okay, if there is an error in this part, I will simply send an error instead of passing it to my next middleman. Okay, one thing is error thing. Okay, let us take another scenario. Let us say you want to log certain information about, let us say your user, okay, your user is buying a product, okay. Here in this one single process, there are multiple things involved. First, the user has to log in, okay, and then he has to choose the product, and then he has to add it to the cart, and then check out, right? Check out from the cart or buy it. right? So all these things are separate requests. Okay, individual API calls will be made for each of this, and you wanted to log when each of this, when the user logged in. Okay, the date and time of when the user logged in, when the user add some items, whenever he is using the home page. Okay, let's say he's visiting the home page and he's just browsing, scrolling through it. You need to know when particular operation is being made, and when is he adding it to the cart, and the time for when he is actually doing the checkout. Let us say you want to do this operation for all the URLs. Okay, instead of going and adding it to the handler, instead of going and adding that inside each of these handlers like get call, post call, or inside each of these URLs, can I add a common middleman? Okay, so that middleman will do this job for you. Okay, simply add the date and time. Okay, and then based on the request, he will redirect to login. Okay, if it is a login URL, or he will redirect to cart, or he will redirect to, the middleman would redirect to checkout. Understood now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, instead of doing the same things repeatedly in all of the URLs, I'm delegating that task to one function, and that is the first one will be executed. After it is done, it will delegate its task to each handlers, whichever we have. Validation, going linearly is one case. Okay, grouping multiple common use case in one middleware is one case. You can just, middleware is just a function. Okay, in tech term, middleware is a function between your request and response. This is the exact definition of middleware. Any function between the request and the response, right? The time interval between when your request arrived and when it is being responded. Okay, the interval there, right? That particular time interval. Okay, any function between whichever is getting executed in that particular time interval is called middleware. Understood, Srinivas? Makes sense now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there are types of middleware. Okay, application level middleware, route level middleware, and you also have error middleware. Simply by the meaning itself, you can understand a middleware just to handle all your errors instead of handling it in each particular path. Handle it in a separate middleware called as error middleware. Can we look into this code? Okay, now in our thing itself, we have a middleware. When I say any function that is being executed from request till the response, okay, can I say this itself is a middleware? This is where I am sending the response, right? Request is sent coming from my HTTP, right? So this is the function in between your request and response, right or wrong? So this itself is a middleware, but it is a route level middleware since it is being executed, just for this particular route. You can call them as a route level middleware. Okay. Understood? This itself is a middleware only. This handler, because it is also a function being executed in between the time interval from the request till the response, right? So let us see the custom middlewares. Okay, let us go and create. Let's not from this folder. Create another folder. Give me 1 minute. npm minute. Okay, npm install express. Okay, let me copy this boilerplate code for your Express server. Nothing complex here. App is missing. Express instance. Clear so far? Any doubts? Let us run this. Nodemon is not installed. Okay. First, let us see how to create our own, our own custom middlewares, and then see few of the most popular, third-party middlewares, how to use them in our application. We have already used two of them. One is this one, JSON.express, and this one. Okay, these are also the middlewares. Now, nodemon./app.is. Okay, my server is running. So there are no, one middleware is this one, but it is directly handling the response. Okay, as I said, each of the handler functions which you have, right, for get, this itself is called as a middleware. Okay, but they are route level middlewares. We will see more of how to add our custom middlewares. Okay, so there are three things. Each middleware, as I told, okay, is a function, right? A function, okay, which has access to your request, your response, REQ request, okay, RES response, and another variable called next. Okay, this is again a function. Okay, these are the three things that your middleware function has access to. Clear? So far, any doubts? Your middleware is a function which has access to request, response, and next. As I told you, this is a middleware. Okay, can I say that it satisfies that it is a function? Yes, it is an arrow function. Does it have access to request? Yes. Did it have access to response? Yes, I have. Okay, now if you go and see, put a comma and then ask, can you see a next function being here? Okay, it has access. You can still have that. Since you are not going to use that, we are not mentioning it, we are just removing it. Okay, it still has access to next function. Okay, what this next is doing, I will tell you. Okay, understood now so far? Middleware is a function, whatever function it is, name function, anonymous function, arrow function, I don't care, it is a function. Okay, any function which has access to request object, response object, and another function which is next. The error is I have not used it anywhere in the thing. That is the same error for request and next. Nothing to do with this. Okay, understood how a middleware should look like and what are the three things that it should have access to? Okay. Now, if you have understood that, let us write our own middleware and try to use that. I told you it's a function. Let us say I am going to define a middleware for authentication. Okay, I will also show you one other image. Okay. Client request. Okay, I have a middleware. Whatever call might it be. Okay, it can be a get, post, put, it can be a delete. But for all of these operations, one thing is common. You have to first verify if the user is authenticated or not. Can I put as a separate middleware and then add it here before handling this route? Can I put it in front of it so that I just check if it is authenticated? If it's not authenticated, immediately send the response, else call the next one. Understood the use case here? Authentication is something common for all my route, right? So I'm going to use a middleware to handle this particular part alone. Okay, if it is an error, send the response, else go to my next middleware. Understood the use case, what we are trying to achieve now? Any doubts on this part? Yes, no?
No, ma'am.
It's huge silence in the class. 28 of you are here.
Ma'am, can you repeat one more time?
Okay.
The trading part or what is the
Authentication. Okay. So if you see here, let us go back to our code so far what we have written. If it is a get call, do this kind of an operation. Okay. If it is a post, do send all the post ID. Okay. If it is, if it is a get with post ID, do this. If it is a post HTTP method, add the data. Okay. These are the three things which we have. Okay, but before doing these three things, before sending the data to the user or before editing the data, before adding the new data which the user gave, any application should have authentication. What is authentication? First, you should check if the user is the correct user or not. If the password and the username which he or she have given is correct or not. Right? To perform any of these operations, you will have to first check that, right or wrong. So what you will be thinking is, why not I add validation here, add a method of validation here, do the same here, validation, do the same for get as well, validation. Why not I add a separate function which does this for me? You can also think of that way. Okay, but a better approach, instead of doing it in this way, instead of handling the validation part which is common for all the route, okay, instead of doing this for all the URLs, I am going to have a middleware. Okay, middleware meaning that is also a function again. Okay, that is also a function. A function, first it will check whether the user is authenticated or not, then only it will pass the request to my handlers. Okay, if it is a get, the call will come here. If it is a post, it should come here. Only after validating. This is something common, right? If the user itself is not valid, why should I go and call? Why should I execute all the other things? Why should I fetch the data? Why should I, validate the data if the user itself is not valid? Understood the use case? Any doubts? Swapnil?
ma'am, confusion.
Confusing. What part is confusing now?
Ma'am, which one is common, ma'am? After middleware, you
Okay.
said no.
Okay.
Which one is common, like gate post? What
Okay.
is the common?
Okay. Let us say post get URL. Okay. Sorry, get URL. And then you have a post method which is trying to add something. Okay. Add a few data here. Let us have another delete post and then ID, post ID. Right. So these are the three handlers which I have in my application. So far clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before the user performs each operation, okay, if it is if he or she is performing get operation or post or delete, one thing is common in all of these operations. In the first place, the user, okay, whoever is requesting, if he or she is requesting to get the data or post the data or delete the data, first thing you have to make sure that the user who is requesting, right, he or she is authenticated. By authenticated, I mean he or she is already part of my system, given the right username and password, right? That is something common, right? Even if he has to delete, he has to be the valid user. If it is a post call, then also the user has to be valid. First, we need to make sure that he is an authenticated user, right? Understood this part?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
user must be validate.
can you repeat, Swapnil?
You, user must be validate.
Yes, user must be validated in all the things. So what you might think of is, I can go and handle that part here, right? Get caller, first thing I will just validate the user. Same way, I can go and do that here. I can do that here. In each of the call, I can do that. But this is something tedious. I am doing in it in a better approach by moving all this in a separate function, okay, called middleware, authentication middleware, which just validates if the user, let's assume that it is validating the username and password. Only if this is passed, okay, only if this is successful, it will go to its particular handler. It will go to get or post or delete. If it is failing here, you can send the response at this point itself. Now understood? Probably if I write the code, you can understand better.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Any others have doubts so far? What I'm going to do is, let's have authenticate user. That should have request. It's a middleware, right? It is a function which has access to request, response, and a function called next. Okay, understood so far? It's a function. Okay, so this is something, okay, let us say post get call. Output probably, let us assume this one. Spelling wrong. Okay, I don't care. Okay, this part is, let's say it's a post call. You are adding something. And then let us say dot delete. Okay, I have 4 handlers to handle each of my methods. Okay. Now I wanted to add a middleware. Okay, a function which has access to request, response, and the next. Okay. Let us say if const let us have a boolean value, true or false. Initially it is true. Okay, let us assume that. Okay, it can be false also. Okay, checking data from DB. Assume you are getting the username and password from the DB, and then you are checking that. Based on that checking, you are changing this to valid, true or not. Okay, if he or she is not valid, okay, if this boolean is false, right? If it is false, simply return the error response.send invalid user. If it is a valid user, simply call next. Okay, what am I doing? I'll repeat. This is a middleware which is going to handle authentication part alone. It has access to request, response, next. Okay, that you are getting the data. Let us say you have the user password and the username in the request itself. You are getting the correct data from the DB and you are validating. Okay, if you are doing something like if user name is equal to request dot username, this is okay, equal to let us assume This part is initially false. Okay. And password is equal to request dot password. Okay, if both are correct, then only let us make this as let. Then only you make that as true. Else it will be false only. Got this logic? I'm just assuming I'm getting some data, username and password from DB, and then validating it. If it is a valid user, I will make it as true. Okay, this is a simple logic just to validate alone. Okay, I'm just commenting this out, else it will give error. After validation, if it is not a valid user, I will simply send invalid user here itself from the middleware itself. Okay, before going to delete, get, or whatever handler, before going there, here itself I will send the response that it is an invalid user. Okay, if it is not the case, if he or she is a valid user, then okay, I will call this next function. What this next function is doing is, let me go back to my browser. Let me show you another picture. What this next function is doing is, this is the client request. You might have multiple middlewares in between, right? Multiple functions similar to the one we have already, right? You can have, these are all the middlewares. You can have multiple functions like this, multiple middlewares. Middleware 2 caps, middleware 2. It is possible that you have multiple middlewares like this. Okay, what this next will do is, it will, once it is done with its job, once I am done with the job, okay, it will, by calling this, you are simply calling the next middleware in the line. Okay, if I am done with that, I will call the next keyword to call the next middleware in the line. Okay, similarly, if this is done, it will call next, and that is how it will keep passing from one middleware to another middleware. If you don't call this next, your next middleware will not be executed. Understood what my next is doing? What's the job of my next? It is just a function which you have to call once I am done with my validation. Here, if you see here, I'm done with authenticating. My job is done. Go and execute whatever the next middleware is. That is what this line is doing. Line 48 is doing. Understood this function? What I am doing? Any doubts with this function?
Like the series matter, like how we
Correct. Let me show you how I add it. Okay. Now this is a middleware. I have defined it. Okay. Now I need to add this to the series, right? I have multiple series here. Okay. I need to add it somewhere. So where you add it is something important, and that is the sequence in which your middleware will be executed. If you put this middleware in the first line, let's first add it. Okay. This is something common to all the routes. Yes or no? This is something common to all the routes, and this task the middleware is doing is something that has to be done first. Correct? Before handling all this, I have to first execute this. So you need to put that first, app.use. Use and simply mention this middleware name. Okay. This function can be anywhere, but where you add it in the sequence is important. If you go and add this line here, your request will first go to this handlers, and here itself you have sent the response, so it will not even come to this place. Okay, you need to mention in the correct sequence. Okay, what this middleware is doing, guys, it is authenticating. Authenticating is something I have to do it in the first place, not at the end. So I need to put it first. Okay, so I will also change the order and show you how it is being executed. Okay. Whenever a middleware is common to all the routes, you will use .use method. Is that clear so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let me console.log and show you so that you understand the sequence. Log from middleware. Okay. Probably, and then get post you have, right? So let me do. So now my order is go execute this authentication. Do this middleware first. So it will execute this one, and then only it will go to get or put or post something. Let me go to postman and then try to hit it. If you see here, it's an invalid user. So ideally, this part should not be executed. See, this is false, right? This is false. So this is executed. Invalid user is being printed. Can you focus on this console part? Only the auth middleware is being executed.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the reason it did not even go to this part? It did not even go to that get handler. Why? Because I have sent the response here itself. I didn't call next. Okay. If you do response.send, your response is done. Okay. It will go back. It will send the response and you are done. Let me make this as true. And then if I go and call, cannot get, okay, it's a post operation. Didn't handle the plain one. See, get post is being executed, right? Now, if I go back, can you see here from auth is being printed? Because it is executing this authentication. This is getting printed and then only the get post is getting called. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Others, any doubts on how it is getting executed? Let us add the second middleware as well from auth middleware 1. Okay, let me make this as true. Okay, let us print copy and then let's print auth middleware 2. Okay, and then print get here. Console.log from get. Now, if I go and hit the get call, I get post only as a response. But if you see here, from authentication middleware 1, because that is the order I have mentioned. Okay, that is the first one. I didn't even use the second middleware. So let me use that. Use middleware 2. Now, if I go and hit same response, but if you go and see the console, it first go to auth middleware, then it will go to get auth middleware 2, and then it will go to the get handler. Can we change this order and see? Cut and then paste. Now, if I go and do the get call and come back, can you see middleware 2 being executed first and then middleware 1 and then form get? Understood the importance of ordering? If I put this, let me put this at the end. Okay. Now, if I go and hit, you will get the response. But if I go and, can you see the middleware is not even being executed? Because first it will go to this get handler. Okay. You have printed here and you have sent the response. You have not called next from this handler. So it has sent the response. So it will go back. It will not even come to others. This part will not even be executed. Let us say, instead of sending the response, okay, here itself, you call the next part here, then it will go and call the second authentication. Now, if I go and send, okay, post not valid. Cannot get post or not. Okay, I think the response is being removed and that is the reason. Now let us see the order. Yeah, from get is being printed. Okay, it will first go to this handler. Okay, it is calling next from here. Okay, what is the next thing that is appropriate to the get call? This is universal, right? Use is for all the routes. Okay, dot use is for all the routes. So, and then it will come here to middleware 2. It is printing from auth middleware 2. Then from here you are calling the next. So it will go to this one. Okay, from here you are calling next. I don't have anything after auth user, right? Any other middleware I don't have. So it will go back to this get only, and then it will go and execute this get part. Send the response. That is how you are getting the response here. Understood the sequence? Same way for post also. You will see, right? So whatever is universal, better put it on the top. Again, even if it's universal, since it is an authentication, I am putting at the top. Okay. If it is something else, then based on that logic, you will have to order it correctly. I will show you the example of yesterday's one. I added express.json here, right? So it is parsing your request and then giving you the format in request.body parameter. If I go and remove this and put it after post, let's say I put it here. Okay. First one to execute is the post call handler itself. Right. So in that time it will be in the undefined, because you did not, this middleware is not itself being executed. Before this being executed, you called this, so obviously it will be undefined. So this has to be something done first itself. So that is the reason we are putting at the top. Understood the ordering? Any doubts with the series, how it is being executed? What is the value of this next?
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes.
Ma'am, like we reach our destination, like we got a get request, but
Okay.
after getting request, why it is need to like the middleware?
After get request, that's the reason. Like there might be, let us say, okay, the use case which you might seem that there is no logically it might seem like, why after handler I need to call the next. Okay, let us say you have an error in the get post. Okay, in the get call. Okay, you also have an error. Okay, in the post you might have error in all the 4 cases, right? No problem. The error might be different, but there is a possibility of getting an error. Okay, so this error and all should be handled. Let us say you have a common middleware to just handle the errors. Okay, so that errors and all should be handled after the post only, right? So you can simply after your handlers, so you can simply use app.use. Okay, let me name that function as error middleware, and I simply add that here at the end. So in that case, if you are doing something like this, then you will have to call next from your handler itself.
So like ma'am, if I'm designing login panel, so in login first I'm checking it is authenticated or not, and after then in next I'm calling the authorization, like can I
This one,
authorize, like yeah, the next in
the
the
next one.
route, yeah, in the route, no, upper get, yeah,
Okay.
this one. Yeah, here I will call the authorization middleware, so that after authenticating, after only authenticating, it will go to the authorizer and it will check what authority it have.
That depends on where you put the middleware. Okay, so first I have done the authorization, that part is done. Okay, then it will come to this part. Okay, now if I have any, I said you the use case, authorization use case is something which is have to be done the first part. So I put that in the first line. There might be some error while fetching data from the DB, right? Might be some error in this part itself. So errors and all, let us say I am handling it in a separate handler. So error is something which will come after your get, after your handler is doing it. So if you put next, whatever is in the next, what is next, it will go and parse. Okay, this is the next middleware I have, so I will call this one.
Okay.
Okay, entirely depends on what the logic you are putting in the middleware. and where that logic should be placed.
Right. Yes.
Okay, if you just remove this and put here, it makes no sense, right? Handling the request first and then handling the authorization makes no sense. Okay, so I need to handle this first, so I put that here. Got it, Prab?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, clear.
Okay. Understood the basic things of custom middleware, guys? Okay. Few things. Okay, let us say this use is common for all the APIs, right? This middleware is something that will be executed for all the middleware, like all the requests, all the route, basically. Let us say you want particular middlewares to be executed only to get. Okay. Or let us say you want particular middleware only to delete. Okay. What you can do is simply add that this is also a middleware, right? If you go and check the delete method, okay, if you go and check the delete method, first thing is the router. Okay. Second is, can you see any parse queues? Okay. These are, as you can handle, you can add as many middlewares you want. You have added one middleware here. Let us say I wanted to apply this middleware 2, right? Middleware 2 only to my delete request and not to anything else. What I can do is, this is one middleware. Okay. I can simply put, no, I can simply add the second middleware, whatever I want, just before the other middleware. I can add as many middlewares as I want. It will end, no, it will execute in sequence. It will first execute this middleware, and then finally it will go to the last middleware where the response is being sent. Can we execute this and see? Ideally, what should happen is, if I ask for get, only auth user should be executed, and then this should be done. Let's remove this part now. Okay, if I use get operation, okay, this middleware should be executed. The second middleware should be this one. Okay, if I ask for delete, this again should be executed because this is global. Okay, and this should be, middleware 2 should be executed, and then the third middleware should be executed. Understood the sequence of how we are expecting the response? If I go and run, error middleware is not defined. Yes, obviously. Let me comment this. Now, if I go and run, okay, it's a get call, right? Let me go and hit, check the response. Can you see from auth middleware 1, and then the get handler is immediately executed, right? So now auth middleware 2 is not executed. Now let me go back and ask for delete. Now if I hit delete post, yes, I'm getting the response correctly. Can you see here auth middleware 1, auth middleware 2, okay, and then the third middleware that is immediately sending the response. Okay, this is the route level middleware. Already you have a route level middleware already added. You can add additional middlewares like this, how many ever middlewares you want. It will just execute in the order which you have mentioned. This is application level middleware, meaning this is common to all the routes. Okay, this is this part, the second part, all these are route level middleware, because this middleware is something only to my post only, nothing else. Understood the difference between route middleware and application level middleware? Understood? Any doubts, guys? Your silence. Any doubts, Arina, Subir? How middleware is being executed? How is the series? What is the use of next? If I don't give next, no, what will happen? Let me comment this and show you. It will be pending itself. Can you see sending request? The response is not even being sent, because after this auth user, you are not calling the next middleware. Response is not even sent. Only if you call the next middleware, it will go to this one, and then it will send the response finally. Okay, if you don't use this next, it will not go and execute your immediate middleware. You will run into problem. Okay, so this next function is important. Not necessarily you will have to call it everywhere. For example, if you see here, I don't use the next function here, but you should make sure that you are sending the response if you are not calling the next. Okay, response should be sent, else you will run into this situation. No timeout, so it is in error. Can we see one? For example, instead of you defining the middleware to handle it, right? So instead of you defining the middleware to parse the JSON, Express is giving you the function. This function which you wrote, right? This function, it is giving you to parse the JSON. If you go and see here, can you see a returns middleware that only parses returns middleware? It is returning a middleware for you. So you are just adding it. Similarly, static is a middleware, built-in middleware function. Okay. I will show you one other default middleware. Okay. Let me go back. Do you know anything about rate limiter? Do anyone know what is rate limiter? Rate limiters. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay. If someone is trying to hack your website, they will continuously, try to crash your website by posting, thousands of requests in a minute.
Is it like
will
on
happen?
DDoS?
Like?
DDoS attack?
Yeah, something similar to that. Okay. There are possibilities that in a minute itself, they'll try to crash your server by sending multiple requests. They'll write a script, JavaScript script or something similar like that. Okay, so what it will do it in a minute itself, it will try to fire multiple requests to your server. What will happen? And your server will crash and your system will go down, right? So you don't want to do that. So there is a package, okay, to handle that. Const, let me name it as rate limiter require simple thing. It will just give you the thing alone. Yeah, express rate limit. Okay, first I'll have to install this library before I use. So what I'm going to do is npm install express rate limit. Not found. Express rate limit is the package as far as I know. Let me go back and check. npm okay, this one, this is the same thing I gave, right? Is there any spelling mistake? Okay. The problem is you might be getting it. The problem is since I'm working in PayPal, I have changed the npm registry itself. Okay. This generally it will point to this one. Okay, PayPal has their own npm library, so I have changed the registry itself. I cannot download anything from this website. Okay, so possibly do that in your system. Install it npm install. Okay, after you install, okay, you can simply put that here. What you have to do is you will have to use that. It is a middleware only, app.use. Okay, you will have to define a object. Okay, you will have to call this function, whatever you have, right? This rate limiter, call this function with an object. Okay, that object you should mention window ms, I believe. Okay, and then you should mention the time. Okay, If it's, if it's 15 minutes or 10 minutes, you can just mention the time here, right? And then you can mention the maximum allowed request. Okay, let's say 5. Okay, let's say for 1 minute, you want only 5 requests to be hit from a particular IP. Okay, from one IP address. Okay, my IP address will be unique, yours will be unique, right? So from one IP address, I can, for in one particular minute, I can accept only 5. Okay, if it is greater than 5, it will simply throw an error. Understood this one? I cannot demonstrate you. I thought I can, but the machine here, it's not allowing me. This is the package. This is the function. Simply call that function with your conditions. What is the number of requests you want to allow, and what is the time interval? Like, is it for 1 minute or 2 minutes? Okay, mention that window, time interval, and mention the number of requests you wanted to allow, and simply add that in use. So whenever a user try to hit that more than 5 times, it will give you an error. Understood? Can you try this tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
This is an inbuilt middleware. I can also give you the names of other middlewares. You can try it. Okay, there is something called Morgan.
Yeah, I
Morgan,
have
it
used
will, yeah, they
logging.
will, yes, it will help you in logging the time, the details of whenever the request. Instead of you doing, adding a middleware to log in, it will help you with logging it. Okay, there is another middleware called Helmet. That middleware is used for, let me quickly check. Helmet middleware. Okay, it's used for security purpose. Go and read about all this. I will just comment this out, and popular middlewares that you can use in your application. There is something called cross origin, cross origin resource sharing. Okay, this is, yeah, you can learn about that. I told you already about the rate limiter thing. One other thing I can think of at this moment is, yeah, this is enough. This JSON, okay, .json is a middleware we already have. .static and all are common middlewares, but this rate limiter is something very common. Try to use this in your application, very helpful in security terms. Understood middleware, guys? Any doubts? Okay, let me add the MCQ. It's already 11. Okay. Series is important. Next you have to call. Okay, where you mention is important, and you have to make sure that in that series at least one middleware should send the response. If it is not sending the response, you should call next. If you are not calling the next, you should send the response. Anything should be done, else your system will be waiting for the data. Yes, added for Tata batch, added for Baba batch as well. I'm copying the next question. MCQ is live. Only if you ask the doubts, I will know, else it's very difficult. If you want me to repeat also, you can tell me to repeat, I'll do that. Tomorrow we will see about the differences in package.json and package lock.json, and we will see how to parse different format of files, okay, like Excel, by using third-party libraries, okay. And then we will see, we as of now we are supporting only JSON data, right? We can, how, let us see how to accept form data or the URL encoded data and all. Yeah, I have added the last MCQ for Baba batch, done for Tata as well. The other things I have listed is how set immediate is working, okay, and yeah, how to debug your node application. These are small things which can be, yes, Prague, I will add it to the list, okay. I will add, I have the list to do all this, whatever topics which you are asking, okay. Yeah, so I'll focus on these things which we already know, package and package lock.json, why it's useful, how it's useful and all, and reading different formats of data, how to debug node applications, that was all very important, right? Debugging. Yeah, and then how set immediate is working. We'll try to cover it. If time permits, I'll cover MVC architecture. Any doubts with middlewares? You can put this function anywhere, no problem. Okay, you need not put this function. You can immediately, you can also add that function as an arrow function here. Okay, no problem with how your function looks. You can just simply, write request response and next. You can do that. Where you put the use is important. Application level route middleware. This is route level middleware. You can also mention route level middleware using app.use itself. Use this, but instead of just directly mentioning middleware 2, which is common for all, before that you can just put the URL. Okay, so this means for every URL which is of post, okay, which is of post or which particular URL, that will handle, but people prefer it having it this way only. There's one minute thing about error middlewares which I didn't tell you. Possibly on Monday we will continue. Okay, adding attendance for Tata, done for Baba as well. Monday's class will be on give me a minute. Good night. Have a great weekend, everyone who is leaving. Module 3. Try to attend tomorrow's class if possible. Okay. Monday's class is on.
Tomorrow,
Yes.
hello. Ma'am,
Sudhakar.
tomorrow we don't have like class, ma'am, because they are going to give tests, no?
Retest, I think only few people. I am not
Maybe.
sure. I don't know how will it happen. Like how did it happen for your
Ma'am,
DSN?
retest also like no, after retest also we can take the class because it will go from 6 to 9 maybe, not much more.
Okay,
I
okay.
think we can.
Possibly I'll get a word from the Shubham and then confirm. Okay. Yeah. If not, there will be an announcement. Don't worry. On Monday we have template engines. How to handle. We will see there are multiple template engines. We will see handlebars. Okay, there's EJS. There's handlebar. Handlebar is something famous. Okay. Yeah. Akhilesh, Ashwati. Yes, Sudhakar. Yes, Prag. Go ahead.
Like ma'am, the testing packages we use for APIs.
Hmm.
So is that also a error middleware like just and all we use testing?
Yes, no, not exactly. That is a separate package. You cannot call that as a middleware. Okay, error middleware is something very famous, very similar to this only. Okay, instead of having only 3 parameters, you have an object, error object as well. Okay, so how will you have access to this error object? Is something whenever you send next, right? So you will send that error message here. So the next middleware will have access to that error object in the first parameter. That's the very minute difference.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to arrange this in a better way and then post it. Any doubts? Others? Anhu, Rupam, Srinivas, Swapnil, any doubts? Adil is not
Ma'am,
there. Yes.
I have doubt in today's CC.
Mhm. Okay. This is
I
on
didn't understand actually what I have to do.
okay. Let me quickly pull that. This is okay. So did you get that files cars.csv?
No, ma'am.
Were we not able to
While,
get
We
the
have
while
link?
you're clicking the link, they're showing for not found.
Oh, okay. I didn't check this. Okay. Download cards, iris in a single folder. You can also pull that from the repo if you have already. Okay. Go through those files and understand the structure. Next, you need to create a script in Node.js, which will convert the content.
we have to create it first, like from
Yes.
post first.
Possibly they have given some sample data in that link. Okay, that is not working. What you can do is the task is to simply convert content of your CSV file to a JSON file, I believe. Your task is to go and understand, sir. You need to create a script which will convert the content into JSON and write this into cars. Okay. Okay. Simply create a data, create a CSV file. Okay, with dummy data, whatever you wanted, and then try to convert that CSV data to a JSON file, and also create a JSON file and then try to convert the data in the JSON file to a CSV file using the parser called CSV parser. Don't worry about the data and all. Simply have a student data CSV format. Okay, the extension should be .csv. Okay, student data.
Okay,
Try to read that, use the parser, CSV parser. Try to go through how to use CSV parser. Okay, there will be multiple methods to use that. Okay, they'll tell you how to do that. Okay, read the content of your CSV file and then write it into a new JSON file. Got it? Similarly,
yeah.
have the data in a JSON file and try to read the data in the JSON file and put it in your CSV file. That's the question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, using this parser.
CSV pass.
Yes, CSV parser.
Okay,
Don't
thank
worry
you.
about the data or not. Yes. No problem. Prag, any doubts?
No, ma'am. Good night, ma'am.
Yeah, good night. Good night, both of
Good night, ma'am.
yeah, good night.